I always start everything with a very sort of like simple observation as a sketch. So this is the very starting thing that I start since a while ago from what I've seen, from what I've seen, and from what I experienced throughout a different region of Asia mostly. Very initial evolution actually is a very standard, as you can see here. This is what happened in Indonesia. It's still done by the public funding, and then on the evolution 2.0, actually the bridge, this is happening in Hong Kong, actually connecting a couple of the buildings there.
Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Pooja Tiwari and I'm delighted to welcome you all once again to episode 9 of We See Live Season 3. Brought to you by Godrej Value Co-Creators Club, an initiative by Godrej Locks and Architectural Solutions. Before we dive in, a quick word on GVCC, a dynamic platform of 2,000 plus architects and designers fostering knowledge, collaboration and design excellence. If you haven't signed up yet, check the link in the chat box and become a part of this growing community. Let's take a quick look at what GVCC is all about.
Welcome to the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club, where innovation meets collaboration. GVCC is a unique platform for architects and interior designers to merge their creative visions with our innovative product offerings. We aim to cultivate a network of thought leaders, driving innovation and excellence in the industry. Celebrate your achievements with our GV's Awards, recognizing innovative projects across various verticals. Join our community through exhibition visits and masterclasses to stay updated on the latest trends and technologies. Enjoy exclusive access to new products, special discounts, and tours of our Mumbai and Goa plants. Join the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club today. Be part of a community that values innovation, collaboration, and sustainability.
Godrej Locks and Architectural Solutions, a leading and trusted home safety business, has announced the launch of its latest brand campaign, Befikar Living Unlocked, introducing the next-gen Advantis IoT 9 digital lock. The campaign highlights Godrej's commitment to enhancing home safety through innovation with a new television commercial that creatively addresses everyday safety concerns. Let's have a look at the video, please.
Thrusters.
Check. Door lock check.
डोर लॉक घर का डोर लॉक किया था या भूल गया?
भूल गया।
घर का लॉक फटाफट से चेक करके आऊं क्या?
ले आइए गोदरेज IoT 9 डिजिटल लॉक, 9 सिक्योर एक्सेस मोड्स, ऑटोमेटिक लॉकिंग ट्रिपल बोल्ट और कई एडवांस फीचर्स। अब घर के अंदर या बाहर रहो बेफिक्र।
घर जाते ही गोदरेज डिजिटल लॉक लगवाऊंगा।
We See Live is a monthly thought leadership series featuring some of the most influential minds in architecture and design. Across seasons, we have explored everything from smart living to material innovation and human-centered design. This season, we are diving into the theme Future Forward, a journey into transformative thinking where innovation meets sustainability and technology reshapes our cities and shapes. Through today's episode, Frameworks for the Future, we are exploring how transit-oriented development, human-scaled interventions, and thoughtful designs are reshaping the fabric of our cities, starting at the sidewalk and radiating into urban policy. We'll end the session with an interactive Q&A session, so please keep your questions coming in the Q&A tab throughout. All right, let's move on to our speaker. Our speaker today is someone who's at the heart of this transformation. Architect Ardzuna Sinaga, founding partner of Urban Plus from Indonesia, with over 2 decades of experience, has led transformative projects from Southeast Asia, from pedestrian paths to transit-oriented development in Jakarta. He's a change maker in Southeast Asian urbanism, deeply invested in creating people-first class cities through transport, placemaking, and research. A hearty warm welcome, Architect Ardzuna. Thank you so much for taking out time and doing this for all of us. Over to you.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you very much, everyone. to spend your time here to hear this sharing. I'm Ardzuna Sinaga. My nickname is Angga. I'm an urban designer slash architect, and been share how actually our effort on proposing a complete framework of TOD, starting from creating a good framework of pedestrian path up to designing a full TOD project. So allow me to share my presentation now. Sorry about the lag. I hope you already can hear my
Yes.
voice fine. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Puja. So today I will share about how actually my experience starting about like 20 years ago. So I'm the founding partner of Urban Plus. This Urban Plus is actually a consultant, a multidisciplinary consultant. We are focusing on urban design, architecture, and also landscape design. And this is just a background, little background that actually where all of my experience together with my partners, Shivani Sofyan and Vincentius Hermawan, and also Rahman Wijaya, we've been around for quite a while in various spots of Asia, mostly in Central Asia, and now for the last 7 years. And we also working on a various scale of planner. Actually, I also working on from a very big scale project such as a new townships, even a new city. We also together with the all members of Urban Plus, we working on the master plan of new capital of Indonesia, the IKN, and also here showing a various scale of the project starting from the big scale project and also media projects such as the mixed and up to a very detailed and small projects such as say architecture, buildings, and also really just recently been done what we did with the government of Jakarta. So um, we are working. I mean, our vision is about how to make, how to bring Indonesia to a brighter future through a design and development. And as we know, Indonesia, as one of the developing country, actually need a way towards the brighter future. So, starting from the vision, purpose, direction, and inspiration, we have to bring it forward through the, of course, understanding about the context and also how it's related with the physical condition of our city. And also, we have to keep building up our skill and capacity to reach the better future. And also, as we know, through our process, we also have to go through a sequential process, which is all of the design have to go to the research and have to go to the monitoring and evaluation and how to adapt the technology from abroad or from outside of the country and also how to make sure all of the completion and evaluation actually on the right place. I always start everything with the a very sort of like simple observation as a sketch. So this is the very starting thing that I start since a while ago from what I've seen, from what I've seen, and from what I experienced throughout a different region of Asia mostly. I try to observe and I try to capture actually what happened in terms of urban design and infrastructure in various regions in Asia. And usually, I always try to write it down and put it in notes like a journal, but talk about how actually I mean, how actually we can nail down and also get a summary of whatever we've seen throughout our experience, and also how to bring all of the lesson learned and bring it in as the reference to our way of doing projects. So most of the interesting findings that I found for the last, especially for the last 10 years regarding the basic infrastructure, which is the pedestrian path, is what I've seen through a various place, starting from on the left side, you can see a photo of Sukhumvit area in Bangkok City in Thailand. And I also very familiar with uh, experiencing the bridge in the middle photo. The center photo is from Hong Kong. And also what we've seen really is in a couple Central Asian cities like Seoul in South Korea on the right side. What I see about the pedestrian infrastructure is actually there is a sort of like a sequential process or phase in terms of how the physical infrastructure actually shape the city. From my perspective, I can see there's actually, even though only a pedestrian path as the physical element, as the infrastructure, basic infrastructure, there is an evolution actually, how actually it shapes the itself in terms of mobility and the movement of the people. I call it the evolution 1.0 as a very basic pedestrian path, function as sidewalk, and usually is separate the corridor of people to move with the vehicles or cars, motorcycle, etc. So it become a conduit and conveying how the mobility of the people along the corridor. But then there's another progress where the evolution number two, as you've seen in the diagram, actually is trying to separate the levels and also how to make it as multi-layer. So the pedestrian have a dedicated lane. It can be above, it can be also underground, but it purpose to separate between the vehicle and the people itself. So in evolution 2.0, we're starting to see actually a more advanced corridor of the pedestrian path. The next thing actually is another evolution 3.0, whereas actually the corridor of the pedestrian path is not only become the corridor between a place or between the buildings, but it's already become a very big and a very long corridor actually connecting between districts, and it goes along the city. So it's also make the differentiation where in the provision of the scheme of the provision in evolution 1.0, we as we see in a lot of cities, including maybe a couple of cities in India, it's done by the public sector, which is the government. So it's a very basic infra have to be done, and it's just provided by the government. But then on the evolution number two, actually, I'm starting to see the private sector is starting to take place and starting to take the role in terms of providing the infrastructure of pedestrian within the city. So even though the public sector or the government still become the main sort of like laid out the a baseline of the infrastructure, but then the private sector starting to uh, uh, play the role, whereas a lot of connection actually is happening between buildings or between a lot, or actually is across a couple of the different ownership of the land. So in evolution 2.0, the private sector is starting to take the role. But on the next evolution, actually, the uh, the involvement of the private sector is not only helping or supporting the government, but it's already become the main provider of the pedestrian path itself, which is the public sector actually just makes sure and assuring the provision by regulating and also put a lot of sort of like role play, so the private sector can do their development within their own land, but still using by the publics. So this evolution actually just want to show how actually there is a shifting from a public sector and starting to shift to private sector, and at some point it's already become completely done by the private sector to provide a pedestrian path. So if you see here a couple of the example where on the very initial evolution actually is a very standard. As you can see here, this is what happened in Indonesia. It's still done by the public funding. And then on the evolution 2.0, actually, the bridge, this is happening in Hong Kong, actually connecting a couple of the buildings there. It's built by the public sector, funded by the public, funded by the private sector, but then still accumulated as per regulation by the public sector. So the private sector starting to see there is a windfalls or the profit by providing this connection actually is become their advantage to give them back the return in terms of the capital. But then on the version 3.0, it's even everything can be done. The public sector just assuring and make sure that everything that happening within the private sector land is actually can happen and give not only them, not only the owner of the land profits, but also the advantage for the city. So from there, when we talk about the TOD or the transit oriented development in Indonesia, we have to see how actually those evolution actually take place and give us a lesson learned. How to create a true complete TOD. Actually, he have to be started from a very basic thing, which is the framework or the network of the pedestrian. In terms of the of the TOD in Indonesia, we also have a couple of the rules and regulation. We have the technical guidelines by the authorities. We also have the spatial regulation also provided by the ministry, and we also have some of the standard that actually we adapted from a couple of the association that have the standard of the TOD. So from there, we can start to see that actually what we did along the, I mean, through the years, starting from 15 years ago, actually is trying to shape up and make a complete frame of the TOD, starting from basic, a very, very basic infrastructure. We start with doing a pedestrian path as the very basic infrastructure, which at that time in around 2016, 2017, it still had a not in good condition for Jakarta city in Indonesia. So we are starting with how to make a connection for pedestrian to connected to a transportation hub and to assuring how the first mile and the last mile going to the station, going to the terminals actually become a very good conduit for people to walk on. So creating the integrated urban framework actually is our very, very basic, starting from the principles about the integration, the seamless connectivity, how to also put the wayfinding, and also how to make a vibrant city by activating the face of the buildings. And we start with very, very simple, as you can see. This is one of our work in 2017. It's actually showing how we revitalize the pedestrian path. You see here, actually, it's already become revitalized because before this, the condition is very good. But then we are starting to make the path not on conduit for people to walk on and also to connect different places, but also become a space for the activity. As you can see here, it can be a place to discuss for people. It can be the place to activate by a lot of activity there. And it's actually, we are lucky because we have the opportunity to do that when the movement actually initiated by one of the material provider, which is material producer, to sponsor the construction of the pedestrian path in here. So this is what the photo that shows how the pedestrian actually is also giving a more universal design and give allowance for even the disabled people to walk towards around the city. And we also put a new paradigm, whereas the connection going across the road or the street we design it to be at the same level. So for people to wanna across the street, they don't feel that they have to go down to the road level, but they are walking actually at the same level, going across the road, and they can easily move here and there. So even though sometimes the usage of the pedestrian path have another a alternative like what you see here, a very wide pedestrian at some level is being used by the street vendors to become their sort of like stage or space to sell their things. But this is actually part of the evolution, how the people starting to adapt, and also how the people starting to learn how to use the public infrastructure in a good way. But even though actually this space, interestingly, is also used as a stage for a couple influential people, like you can see here. This is Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, when he was visiting Jakarta, visiting Indonesia to have a talk with a couple of the businessmen. Actually, he goes at this to the same places actually as the pedestrian path, but being used as the space for the street vendors, and he's enjoying, the discussion with a couple of the businessmen there, and also enjoying the food there in a very wide, sort of like nice infrastructure. So this thing still happening in Indonesia. So it's part of the process how people starting to not only using but celebrating the corridor itself. So the corridor of the pedestrian is starting to connect a couple of places and make the humanized movement, and starting to sort of like inject an activity to a couple of the new creative or activity spaces like you've seen here. This is actually the old post office of Indonesia, built in a Dutch colonial era, but now it's being reactivated as one of the creative center. So as you can see, the activity here actually happening because it's supported by the pedestrian path itself. So we start to see how the reactivation starting to become a placemaking, starting to become a space for people to have starting to support how the enterprises and also the businesses to grow, and even up to the private sector itself. This is one of our works that actually designing a lifestyle center that connected to the MRT just next door by a good pedestrian path. So you can see here how all of these places starting to inject it with a new vibrant spirit and new activity that actually give them a new livelihood. And after we work the pedestrian path, we are starting to see the possibility not only to connect the mobility of the people, but also to connect a different transportation mode within a TOD area. So this is a design for the pedestrian bridge, actually connecting on the left side is the LRT station, connected through, above road, is above the ground level, connected with the railway station on the other side. Also, another sort of like a new a new approach that actually taken by the government, because before there is no bridge and people have to go walk, have to walk around, and even a lot of people, a lot of people, a lot of pedestrians actually they are taking the cars to go around. But then by connecting those two stations along the road, crossing the river also, we can assume that actually the mobility between the two transport modes is actually getting much smoother. So the design has actually have to be tested and have to be reviewed by a different various type of authorities. So the city government have to review it, and also the Ministry of Transportation have to review it, because the design, the bridge is actually goes along a different space, different authority. So this type of connection actually is another type actually new for Indonesia. And when it gets constructed, actually a lot of people started to wondering actually what type of architecture or what type of the pedestrian bridge actually take shape, because this is the first time in Indonesia. And once it's already get built, I think it's get built in around 2019, right before COVID. So at the same time, actually, the operation of the LRT on the left side is starting to operating at a time. The movement between a different type of transportation actually is, being smoother, and also it's connected all of the station in one area to become a full complete of the TOD point. So this is the next level actually we did that, starting from the ground, and then we starting to connect a different spot of the transportation mode. And then, starting from that second phase, we also starting to think about how we revitalize the station itself, the train station, as you can see. So in here, in Duku Atas area, after we finish our pedestrian bridge on that side, so this is the pedestrian bridge, and we are starting. We have the opportunity. We are engaged by the train, the National Railway Company, to do a revitalization of the station, the train station, and integrating station and become a full TOD connected by the bridge. So this overtaking actually is quite massive, and we only can get this sort of like projects. We get the appointment of this project after we approach the National Railway Company for quite a long time. I think it's almost 8 to 10 years. After we proving that actually the interconnection, the framework in the different station, different transportation spot actually is very important. Then we got the opportunity to integrate these three stations to become one station, so it can potentially bring more people along the train itself. So this project still under the ongoing progress. Now after we design the master plan, now we are doing the design of the buildings of the station itself. And the station actually, like you see in here, it's not only the revitalization of or integrating the three different station, the railway station, but also actually it's trying to integrating the different mode of transport between the railway, a convention railway of the train connected to the MRT station on the left side. And this is what we are trying to do, to make a public easement, make it as a public corridor, go through inside the station and connecting with the other MRT station, and also going through another destination with in the injection of the commercial programs within the station itself, to make a statement. Actually, a station is not merely a functional mobility architecture, but also can become an activity center accommodating a various type of programs. So this undertaking hopefully can be started to constructed this year. And this actually one of the project that needs a review by a lot of authority and a lot of different parties, that starting from the city government, the national government, which is represented by the Ministry of Transportation, and how to actually make sure that all of the revitalization is not disrupting the nature, because it's located next to the river, and it still be able to convey all of the passenger and bring not only the passenger but also the people come to this spot and do the activity within the TOD itself. So from a very humble beginning where we work on the pedestrian path. It doesn't look shiny, it doesn't look very fancy, but then we are assuring that the shifting of the paradigm for people to start to walk more, and also give a motivation to people to easily move between the different mode of transport. And now we are starting to realize how actually all of the TOD can be not only the conveyor or the conduit for the transportation, but also become a center of the activity in the heart of the city. So if we talk about the future of, I mean, the framework of the future of Jakarta, for the last couple years, we can see more and more the public infrastructure such as MRT and LRT is actually being constructed. But at the same time, we also have to assuring that the movement between the different transportation modes is also can be done smoothly. So as we see in the very beginning, we start to see how actually the process from the vision itself, and it can be realized for the future framework. We talk about integration and sustainability. Actually, is not only required a understanding of the context and also the um, uh, growing skill and capacity, but also we have to realize that actually the knowledge, the thinking platform of, of the different stakeholders, especially from the transportation people, from the government people, from the city government officials, it also have to grow and also have to improve their regulation rules and how to maintain the consistency of this effort. Along the process, even though what I saw here is only maybe some of the built and done effort, but actually going through the process, there are a lot of stakeholders being involved, a lot of discussion with the public, and also, I mean, public engagement, and also how to convince all of the city government people to put a lot of effort to make all of the uh, uh, contributing of elements to be put in place. So I think one of the lesson learned is first we did do quite a consistent effort to keep the relationship with the multi-stakeholders, not only the government, but also the private developer people. And the second thing, we also have to be able to keep accompanying them in terms of the knowledge improvement, because sometimes the design and also the approach or the thinking of all of these projects is required a new eye-opening for all of the officials. And even sometimes we are up to the level of accompanying them to do a case study, a trip going abroad to see how actually all of the transportation and integrated system being done in any other moving forward country such as Singapore, Japan, or South Korea, or Hong Kong. And we also have to be able to convince them that all of the physical things happening within a quite a long period of time. So I think that's my sharing today to show you that actually how we're trying to make a better city, and we are also put quite a long effort since almost 10 to 15 years ago, just to assuring that all of the growing development in Jakarta city and in Indonesia cities broadly actually is um, undertaking in a quite sequential and a proper way. Thank you for your attention to this, and I think that's the end of my presentation. Back to you, Puja.
Thank you so much. I have to say it was quite an insightful presentation. And the slide that you mentioned in the end, the last slide, which spoke about the vision to the future framework. I think it completely explained the entire presentation, how you have actually started with the vision and how so beautifully you're working for the future framework. So thank you very, very much for that. Now, we will move forward and dive deeper into a couple of more questions that actually I have penned down to ask you. But I just thought that before we do that, I'll take a quick poll from our audience members. We have a very interesting poll question. And I thought that we will take that poll. I will ask the question, and then we have 4 options to it. This is for our audience members, that the question is flashing on your screens. And then we have 4 options to it. And you can quickly, we have 30 seconds to go, and you can quickly vote whichever option you find the best, according to you. So here you go. The question is, what makes a city feel truly livable to you? I repeat, what makes a city truly livable to you? And the options are clean and walkable streets, easy public transport, green and open spaces, and the last option, places that bring people together. So these are the 4 options, and the question is a very interesting question. I think it's quite a pertinent question in today's time, that according to our audience members, what do they feel that in the city that we live today or otherwise, what is it that makes them feel livable? So these are the 4 options. And here you go, 30 seconds is what we have. Quickly, if I can request the audience members to quickly go and vote whichever option they find according to them fits. The first option is clean and walkable streets. The second is easy public transport. The third is green and open spaces. And the fourth is places that bring people together. And I'm sure it's going to be very exciting to know what's the answer. All right, so I've got a heads up from the team, and we can see the results right here. Okay. So I think the first option, which is the clean and walkable streets, has got the highest voting. And then, of course, we have the rest of them. My personal favorite, honestly, if you ask me, would have been places that bring people together. I think that is something that I would have voted for. But nevertheless, this is the first option, is what we've got from the audience members. So thank you so much to all our audience members for voting. All right. So after this very interesting presentation, I was just sort of thinking about a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you, and I'll ask you one by one, if that's okay. So the first question I wanted to ask you is that how has Jakarta's urban transformation changed the way people interact with public spaces? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very actually it's a very basic question that also already in my mind since maybe 20 years ago. When we look at other neighboring countries such as Singapore, starting to use that uh, public spaces connected by the public pedestrian path, actually it's also showing how actually the people have the equality to use the public or the public space itself. So I think at that time, like 20 years ago, up to like 15 years ago, a lot of places in Jakarta actually only can be reached by a private car. I mean, there is a public transport such as a big a train or a railway train, but then not all of the points, not all of the location can be reached by the structure of the transportation. So when Jakarta starting to have the MRT for the first time is 2017, and at the same time, actually, we are preparing all of the connection of the pedestrian path go to the uh, uh, different spots and location, including the commercial and also residential area. The people starting to be able to realize that actually not only, I mean, not by using or driving their cars or motorcycles, but by walking, they can reach at different and various places, which can be accessible by public. So only at that time, a lot of people, some of the people being able to go abroad, to enjoying the nice walking corridor in Singapore, to enjoy all of the pedestrian path, maybe in any other countries. And they are starting to feel that actually they can do it in their own city, in Jakarta. So I think the public transportation, such as MRT, is taking a very big role to starting to motivate people to walk more. So the trend is starting to be seen starting from 10 years ago. The people, I mean, when people want to walk, it's also make a inspiration for a lot of new enterprise or businesses, especially in the F&B uh, fields. They tend to look at actually a lot of spots and location can be a very good a business spot because a lot of people start to walking in Jakarta. So I think it has to be in a very integrated and sort of like connected framework. So it cannot be done one by one. The MRT will not be successful if there is no conduit or corridor that they can use to, or maybe also people maybe not thinking to move from the private vehicle to take the public transport if there is no good pedestrian path and there is no good approach to each of the transport points. So I think we are still doing the transformation until now because the MRT is still keep growing, adding new lines, adding new station. At the same time, after the COVID, the realization that people needs to be able to do activity in in outdoor area, in open spaces, especially in the parks, it's also pushed the people to do more activity in parks, at garden, etc. So I think everything just, for me, everything just fall into places, especially right after the COVID and the rapid growth of our transportation system.
Lovely. That's a very brilliant initiative, by the way. All right, moving on. My next question would be, in your experience, what makes a transit-oriented development successful beyond just infrastructure?
So it also have to serve actually the livability of the people in terms of uh, opportunity. I mean the equality and opportunity, if equality of opportunity to do businesses or to sort of like make an income, out of the TOD projects. So I think it's also a big challenge because usually TOD require quite a big capital to construct and also to operate. And usually, like we see in the major cities in the developed country, usually it become the area or space for big businesses to do all of the property and real estate things, right? But then we need to also look at how to accommodate a small enterprises and also a much smaller businesses to be able to integrate within the radius of the TOD area. It doesn't have to be in the TOD building itself, but then if we talk about the corridor, if we talk about the open spaces, if we talk about the actually the path that actually can become the accommodation to all of these small enterprises, actually there are a lot of opportunity as long as all of the area have to be guided and also have to be regulated with a very good regulator, yeah, because as we see in the very initial phase of our MRT, a lot of people look at it as a new thing. A lot of people look at it as a new opportunity. But then at the time, there was no regulation. I mean, like a strict regulation yet for the TOD area. So a lot of small enterprises and small businesses, like street vendors, coming right into the area without really how to say, maintaining the cleanliness and also the tidiness of the area. But then over the time, then the 2D manager, which is the MRT itself, starting to realize that there have to be a guidance, there have to be a regulation, and it started to be implemented. So I think it's about the learning process. So learning process is very important, and without new infrastructure, there will no a learning process, taken by the people. So I think that's part of the process that we are still doing it until now. And as I can see, more and more exposure by the people to look at a good case study or a good examples from the about from the foreign countries is also helping us. I think everything will be interrelated, but I think the infrastructure have to be there first.
Yes, absolutely. Well said. Wonderful. So we will just pause for 30 seconds as it's time to take another poll question for our audience members. I'm sure our audience members are quite excited. So we will take the next poll question, and that is, what improves urban livability? So you can see the question on your screens. The question is, what improves urban livability? And the options are pedestrian-friendly streets, efficient public transport, cultural events, or safety measures. So these are the 4 options. Request our audience members to quickly vote whichever option they deem fit. And the time starts now. We have about 30 seconds to go. And the question is, what improves urban livability? 30 seconds on the clock, and request all our audience members to quickly go and click on the button, click on the option that they feel that will actually suit to this question. So quickly, our audience members, we have about 15 seconds to go now. What improves urban livability? I'm sure this is another very pertinent question that we all think about. So I'm sure we will have a lot of thoughts to it and a lot of answers to it with all the options that we have with us. All right, the team gives me a heads up, and let's go on to the results. And the results is lovely. So the first option, which is pedestrian-friendly streets, actually has the highest votes. And the rest, of course, have a lot of other percentages, but the first option goes to pedestrian-friendly streets, which our audience members have given a heads up to. So wonderful. All right. So let's move on to our discussion, and let's go on to the next one. What lessons from your works in Indonesia might apply to fast-growing Indian cities in today's time, do you think?
Um, hmm. Sorry, can you reply again?
So the question is, what lessons from your work that you've been doing in Indonesia you think might apply to the fast-growing Indian cities?
Okay. Oh wow, it's like like a $1 million question, yeah. We also try to respond to that question here in Indonesia. I think the fast growing cities is always resulting in a very, how to say, in a very progressive growth of the population and also the movement. At the same time, that fast-growing cities also required an equal accessibility to each of the places or each of the location, from the living spaces into the working spaces and also into the amenity and a public facility. It has to be had an equal access. So I think, as you also the poll result mentioned, the good accessibility of the pedestrian, the good mobility of the pedestrian, the good movement of the people itself, actually it's sort of like promoting the equal access and more, how to say, more balanced value of each of the land or zoning. So there is no particular zone or land or even like building or destination become an exclusive location, because if it can be accessed really by people just by walking, at least walking from the public transport location, it can also have a very equal access to it. With that way, we can start to balance out how the real estate and property value working within the city. There is no favorite places that always sort of like visited by a certain level of people. And there is no places that actually become abandoned because it's really difficult and really hard to reach and to visit, because there's no access to go there. So I think that's one of the things that we have to bridge. by integrating all of the framework of the mobility, including connecting each of the places at least can be accessed in an equal way. So I think the lesson learned that I took from here in a fast growing city, first, I think, however, even though we are designers, we are planners, we are architects, we are creator, but the first thing actually our so-called like parents or the government though of the city have to realize is there are a lot of layers and there are like such a meticulous long way how to reach the development or growth for the city itself. So the government must have a vision, and the government must lead by examples that actually the effort to make the betterment of the infrastructure of the city have to start with them. So, like when I was working in Hong Kong, I always sort of like inspired by all of the government people and even all of the rich people. They are taking the public transport to go anywhere. So it's different with Indonesia at that time, even until now. Still, some of the government officials, because they have been given the amenities and facility, like a fancy car, private car, a fancy motorcycle, or even with all of the guard and all of the entourage. So there, I mean, it's really difficult for people to really realize and understand actually how the equality importance means. So I think it have to be start with the government itself. Give the I mean expose the vision by the examples, and then the people start to see it as a good thing to do, and then the effort of us, the planners, designers, architects, can be appreciated well with various layer of stakeholders. So I think the lesson learned is keep approaching and keep convincing the government. And the second thing is, as the citizen, as the people that actually living in the city itself, we have to be support each other by realizing we have to maintain all of the public facility, all of the public amenities to be able to keep serving all the people in equal way. So I think maybe my my answer is quite sort of like abstract, but after I see even really difficult to move forward in the physical way if we cannot do the two things that I mentioned just now.
No, I think you've really narrowed down these two solutions, and it's absolutely very, very helpful. And on that note, thank you for such profound answers to these questions that I had for you. Now, before we move on to the Q&A section, I'm sure our audience members are quite excited to get their answers, the questions that they have posted on the chat box. We will quickly do one more poll question, and if I can request our audience members to quickly look at their screens. The question is right there on their screen with the options, and the question is, what do cities need more of? And the options are parks and green spaces, public art, community centers, and bike lanes. The question is, what do cities need more of? So we have 30 seconds. The time starts now. Request all our audience members to quickly go and vote to the option that they really, really want their cities to actually have more of: parks and green spaces, public art, community centers, or bike lanes. So yes, very interesting question, very interesting option. So request our audience members to quickly go. This is the last poll that we have for this session. So I'm sure we're very excited to go and actually vote for the option that they feel fit for this question. All right, I've got a heads up from the team that the time is up, and let's see the results. The results is again option number A, and that is parks and green spaces. It's a good percentage of the audience members have voted on it, and I think it's extremely important to have nature around us with park and green spaces. So thank you so much to our audience members for the polling, the voting that you have done. All right, let's move on and let's quickly jump on to the audience questions that we have received from our audience members. So I will ask you one by one. Okay, just allow me 1 second. Okay, so someone has asked, Mr. Jeet Kumar Gupta has asked, he says, how the ownership rights to use the pedestrian corridors is given for private uses, like for private use. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big challenge for our country, also our city also. As you realize, this is a very good question, by the way. Thank you for the question. Okay, so first thing I have to put background first about the condition in Jakarta, or Indonesia generally. The thing is, here in Indonesia, the ownership of the land or private land actually is controlled solely by the owner itself. So I can say it's a bit different with what the other, maybe some other country have a different approach on this. Any of the private land in Indonesia basically can be controlled, can be restricted, and also can be limited by the owner itself. But then that kind of policy or that kind of attitude actually is not helping the connectivity within a different places of the city, especially if we talk about the mobility, the framework in involving the various type of transportation mode, yeah, such as station and also terminals, etc. So what happened in Jakarta for the last like maybe 10 years? Uh, because of the growth of the public transportation infrastructure construction like MRT and LRT, the access to all of those stations, access to all of that public spaces is starting to become a, how to say, to become a uh, not inspiration, to become a new opportunity for the private landowner to make, to open more access to their land in terms of inviting and attracting more businesses. So that's one of the thing happening when people starting to take the MRT and take the LRT and also take the BRT widely in Jakarta. All of the people that actually need to walk to that station, to the bus stop, sometimes they need a passage or a shortcut through the private land. That's where the private landowner starting to see actually all of the movement of the people actually is become their potential foot traffic to come to their land, to come to their businesses, and to become even give more value to their land, especially if it's commercial plots. So I think that's the how it started to get more seamless, the connection between not only places but also between the station, the destination to the settlement area. Even though it's not completely done, like in several example country like Singapore or Japan or South Korea or Hong Kong, where all of the ground floor actually is connected by the public corridors used by the public to passing by. But then in Indonesia, that thing actually is starting to happen once the MRT and LRT give opportunity for that corridor. The movement between the corridor taking places. So I think still it needs time to improve, but it's starting to happen, and now we can see actually a lot of private land can be accessed and can be passing through by the public because it's connected to a certain destination and also a certain station or terminals. So I think it's just how to one is to complete or make an elaborate framework or networks, and the second thing is how to convince the owner of the private land, to open the access because it's at the end it will give them also advantage, to give access to their land, and also it can potentially bring up and improve the land value. So I think that's what I can respond to.
Thank you so much. All right, so we'll take one more last question because of the time, paucity of time. Time is not on our side, so we'll just take one more question. And it says, how do you envision the future of smart cities And what are the first steps in creating one in emerging economies?
Smart cities is a very, how to say, is a very famous and a very sort of like common things that the people talk about, starting from the designer, and even it will become the commodity of the politician to become their campaign process. But then I think in the smart cities happening at the several different levels, yeah. For the country that already have a complete and very neat infrastructure, smart cities can talk about how to use like a future ready sort of like amenities, to make a better quality of life. But then for a country like Indonesia that still actually struggling to give a betterment to the very basic infrastructure, I think it's really important to realize the again the two things that the smart city have to. I mean, the two things become the prerequisite for the smart city is one is access, and the second thing is the equality. So I think once the society or the community can have the equal access, not only to places but also to various type of activities and also various type programs, then I think the people can start to think about innovation and they start to think about how to elevate the sophistication and also advancement up. Yeah, it can only happen when all of the infrastructure is already provided and people have time and spaces to think about innovation. If the people still struggling to even do approach or to make an access to like daily activities, so it's very difficult for them to start to think about how to make the city smarter. So I think it have to be started from a very, very basic elements, which is access and equality. I mean, the response can be very long, Puja. I mean, it can be like another sort of like theme that we can talk about. But thank you for all of the question, and I'm just trying to sort of like summarize a lot of question. Actually, it's a very, very good question, and a lot of things that actually also been thinking. I mean, been thinking by us since ages ago how to respond to the thing. But I think the consciousness of the people also very important to make sure the uses of the public spaces and also the uses of the public corridors still maintained in a very neat way. So I think access and equality again is very important.
Absolutely well said. All right. Thank you so very much, Architect Ardzuna. I think it was absolutely amazing. It was quite insightful. I think we have so many questions in the audience, but I'm so sorry we'll not be able to take them. Why? Because the presentation was so amazing. So thank you so much for all this. And of course, a big thank you to our audience members for such thoughtful questions. This session reminds us that cities don't just need to function, they need to feel human. And it's design that makes that possible. So stay tuned for our next episode of VC Live. Until then, let's keep designing for the future we want to live in. Thank you very much. Please take care. Be safe.
Thank you very much.
Thrusters.
Check. Door lock check.
डोर लॉक घर का डोर लॉक किया था या भूल गया?
भूल गया.
घर का लॉक फटाफट से चेक करके आऊं क्या?
ले आइए गोदरेज IoT 9 डिजिटल लॉक, 9 सिक्योर एक्सेस मोड्स, ऑटोमेटिक लॉकिंग ट्रिपल बोल्ट और कई एडवांस फीचर्स। अब घर के अंदर या बाहर रहो बेफिक्र।
घर जाते ही गोदरेज डिजिटल लॉक लगवाऊंगा।
Welcome to the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club, where innovation meets collaboration. GVCC is a unique platform for architects and interior designers to merge their creative visions with our innovative product offerings. We aim to cultivate a network of thought leaders, driving innovation and excellence in the industry. Celebrate your achievements with our GV's awards, recognizing innovative projects across various verticals. Join our community through exhibition visits and masterclasses to stay updated on the latest trends and technologies. Enjoy exclusive access to new products, special discounts, and tours of our Mumbai and Goa plants. Join the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club today. Be part of a community that values innovation, collaboration, and sustainability.